Jeffrey, congratulations to you, your organization, the coaches, the players. An amazing performance tonight. You started in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and you ended up at Super Bowl champions. Take the Vince Lombardi home to Philadelphia.
Yo. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
Doing good.
Doing fantastic.
Yeah, pretty tired. It's early, but you know what? We got our coffee. We're doing good.
Well, I don't drink coffee, but I just got a little bit of my energy today. I feel a little vibrant.
Yeah, I could tell.
Man. I feel like I'm ready to talk about some shit today.
I feel that too.
Hopefully, I don't. For all the fans, I just want to say this. I'm getting accused, and it's starting to hurt me a little bit. I'm getting accused in our comment section of just trying to say things to be viral, and that is far from the truth. The reality is, I'm actually just sharing my true opinion about all of the shit that we talk about. It's not like I'm coming up here to just be like, oh, I think this might go viral. I think this might be the thing that's gonna make people kind of say something about this or whatever the case may be. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't give a fuck enough to come in and try to be viral and shit like that. It's just my opinions just sometimes be a little bit contrarian or a little differing or whatever the case may be. And I appreciate people, commenting, but the one thing I don't like is people just thinking that I'm trying to be viral. Like, no, I don't. That's a lack of integrity to what we do, and I don't know. I personally don't appreciate that that type of commenting, or at least that type of opinion for like me personally and my takes. Is more so just that, hey, this is just what I think. This is how I feel about certain things, and if it goes viral, it goes viral. If people differ in opinion, that's cool. That's the way it's supposed to be. But I'm not doing this for the sake of just trying to say some viral shit. I don't give a fuck enough. So I just wanted to say that.
So essentially, he just lied about every single thing he said. He has explicitly told me that he is especially trying to go viral, and he is saying all of these things just to go viral. So don't believe anything he just said.
So first of all, fuck him. But yeah, that's not the truth. But you know what? I got your ass today. Don't worry.
Hey, let's play our game.
Let's play our game, Coach. Who's cooking and who should stay the f*** out the kitchen? All right. Number one on who's cooking right now. And I'm going to say this about this guy. And people might say, here goes this motherfucker again with this hot take shit.
Here he goes.
Stephen Curry is playing his motherfucking ass off this Golden State season. And now that he has gotten Jimmy Butler, I'm going to say this for the record to everybody in Golden State and everybody in the NBA. Stephen Curry has found his Scottie Pippen in Jimmy Butler. Stephen Curry scores, shoots, and plays the offensive side of the game similar to how Michael did it. He's not Michael Jordan, but the way that he can be efficient from the floor when everything is in perfect unison and in harmony and he has the right pieces around him, it's going to be a hard fucking time trying to stop this guy from putting points on the board, because now if you double team him, he has a guy in Jimmy Butler that can not only facilitate, but can go get a bucket. And anytime you double team Steph on a pick and roll between him and Jimmy Butler, you're leaving the floor open to a 4-on-3 fast break in the half court. And that is not the game you want to play with Golden State. And the hard part about it is now those big wing players that you used to try to put on Stephen Curry, now you have to put them on Jimmy Butler, because if you put somebody small on Jimmy, he's going to put their ass on a block and put them to work and get them in foul trouble. And it's going to be a long fucking night. And if you think there's a point guard in the NBA that can guard Stephen Curry one-on-one, you are highly fucking mistaken, because there ain't one. So yeah,
fully agree with you there. I knew once they made that Jimmy Butler trade that things were going to change for the better for Golden State. I think this is where they could start making their push towards the end of the season. this is a Stephen Curry that I just saw on February 8th score 14 straight points against the Chicago Bulls in the United Center.
And 22 in one quarter.
Yeah, and absolutely just bring his team back all
By
the
himself.
way by himself. This is a guy, when he gets hot, he stays hot, and he's very fucking dangerous. We saw it in the Olympics against France. We saw it against Serbia. We saw it against all these other teams in the NBA. The guy's special, and he's got a special player with him now. The NBA's got to be on the lookout for Golden State at this time because, man, they're coming, and it's going to be a problem.
I just imagine, like, if they would have got Vucevic, just how much more of a...
Sure, but to be fair, they
don't need him.
They got that one shooting center.
Post. I like him. Quentin Post.
Solid.
He's
Very
a rookie.
efficient shooter.
I don't even know where they found this kid at.
No clue, but the kid
he
could
fits.
shoot.
He fits.
Yep.
He fits them
He
very
sure
well.
does.
Now, defensively, he's just as slow-footed as Vucevic. Well, I'll say that. He's not as slow-footed as Vucevic, but he's not the greatest in the pick-and-roll situation. Sure. But he can at least get back to the rim and put a little pressure on the rim when he's chasing down a guy that gets past him. So I do like him in that aspect, but he's perfect. He fits them perfectly. And you still got Kevon Looney and Tracy Jackson Davis. Right now, it feels like Golden State is developing him on the go because they feel like in the playoffs, he might end up being their center X factor in the starting lineup, and it might be Kevon Looney and Tracy Jackson Davis coming off the bench. So I like everything that Golden State is doing. But moving on to our next guy that's cooking. LeBron James. Look, Michael Jordan is still the GOAT. But if there is somebody that is second to Michael Jordan, it's Kobe Bryant. I bet you guys thought I was going to say LeBron James. But third.
This is why we get accused of being just trying to go viral. This is exactly why.
No, that's my real opinion. I don't give a fuck what nobody said about that. Kobe Bryant is second to Michael Jordan. And then comes LeBron James. But what I want to say about LeBron is, at 40-some years old, to still be able to do the things that he's doing is absolutely remarkable and incredible. I don't know exactly what he's doing, wink, wink, to be the greatest player at 40 in the NBA. But all I'm going to say is he's carrying this Lakers squad without pretty much any help. Luka's now there, and we're going to find out exactly how this integration of Luka and LeBron really works and how well it works on the basketball court. But as far as looking at things right now, what is obvious is that if you're banking on LeBron James to show up and do the things that you need to do, you don't have to worry about it. He's going to come in every night, do what he's supposed to do, score the points, get the rebounds, get the assists. Defensively, he's still going to be a liability, at least man-to-man defense, sitting down in the chair. He's not going to do that. But if you can find a way to facilitate a defense in which he can always be the guy that's kind of playing like a free safety, then you're in a good position because LeBron James can still get out, block shots from the weak side, be a great help defender and things like that, and communicate. He's a very good backline defender, but if you're asking him to stand in front of somebody one-on-one and sit down in a chair, that's not going to happen. But he's doing a phenomenal job for the Lakers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so crazy to see him doing this at 40 years old. You know what I mean? He's been doing this for forever. Year 20 plus in the league. I think.
What is this, 22nd year or some shit?
22.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think.
Crazy.
And now he's got Luka. I think once they figure out their chemistry together, I think it's going to be very scary.
Do you?
I think so because I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities where either Luka or LeBron are going to go get that ball and just toss it right down the floor like it's Chino Hills basketball in 2016 and just keep finding each other.
Okay.
I think Luka, just seeing that, real quick, just to talk about Luka, I know it's about LeBron, but in that game against Utah, so Luka's debut, I saw Luka every time he attacked the basket attracted 3 guys.
Well, of course he is.
So, and he was able to make, passes from the wing all the way to the opposite corner to Rui Hachimura.
Right.
Able to hit LeBron on way easier looks than I think LeBron has ever had. Like, I don't think LeBron has had this much freedom to kind of just do what he wants to do. Because he's got such a great guard. He hasn't had a guard like this really ever.
Since Kyrie.
He had Kyrie, but, even Kyrie didn't attract as much attention as Luka does.
Well, I think they attract attention in different ways. See,
Yeah,
look,
of course. But
yeah,
you know what I'm trying to get at is because
yeah,
Kyrie attracts attention in such a different way because he could kind of kill you at all three levels. So
yeah.
can Luka, but Luka is also so dangerous as a passer, which
Right,
makes him that much more
right,
scary, you know, pairing him
right.
up with LeBron. So I think LeBron, you know, he's been playing great all year. Obviously, he had that shooting slump earlier, but now playing great ball. I think going into the final stretch here in the season all the way to April,
Uh-huh.
they're going to make a run here and they're going to end up probably top 4 in the West.
Oh, I don't know about that one, but yeah, I could be wrong. I'm not sold just yet, but we'll revisit the Lakers in another episode because I want to do a deep dive on them and exactly what the thinking is between how this Luka and LeBron James pairing is going to work. But to our favorite part of the game, who should stay the fuck out the kitchen? And sadly but surely, I have to put this team out there because all season long, they never made this part of the segment because they were finding ways to make it happen. But on the biggest stage, they didn't make it happen. And we are talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. Look, and we're going to get more into what the hell happened, but I just want to say, to get that far and lose the way that they lost, some might argue that you probably would have been better off just letting somebody else get there. Just like, fuck it. If that's the way we were going to show up, why bother?
Mm-hmm.
Why bother even getting this far to not even put up the fight? I mean, the Eagles literally did what, Coach? They put belt to motherfucking ass.
Sure did. Sure fucking did, man.
On the Kansas City Chiefs. And it was probably the most embarrassing. No, I'll take that back. It ain't the most embarrassing loss. But it's amongst probably one of their most embarrassing losses. You could say that the Tom Brady Super Bowl against the Bucs, when the Bucs was just all over the place and all over Patrick Mahomes, as you could probably say that, but that was a younger Mahomes.
Yeah.
This is a more seasoned veteran Mahomes. And so for me, this is a little bit more embarrassing because the younger Mahomes was still trying to figure some things out. He was going against Tom Brady, who is the GOAT. So it was just a little bit different. But yeah, Kansas City Chiefs, it's time for them to stay the fuck out the kitchen and kind of regroup. But I think I have the antidote for what they can do to change some things around. But what are your thoughts on Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, you know, first time this year that they've been put on this segment for Stay Out the Kitchen, but rightfully so. I mean, that game was 40-6 at one point.
Yes.
You know, which is crazy to think. Yeah, they kind of made a little run at the end, but we know
that they weren't coming back.
The Eagles
game was
already
over
took
with.
their foot off the gas.
Yeah.
I mean, Mahomes made some crazy throws.
Did you say the Eagles took their foot off the gas,
Yeah,
Coach?
it was 40-6 with about 5 minutes left in the fourth. Let's be real. Not a 20-point game going like in the third quarter. So
all right.
So I mean they had already put in bench players. That's different.
Okay.
They had put in bench players. But regardless, like Kansas City all game just was not able to find rhythm on offense.
Nothing.
The defense was able to create some plays. They really negated the run game of Philadelphia, which we thought that the run game was going to be so key.
Because the run game had been key all playoffs.
Exactly.
Not even just for the Eagles, just
Right.
all playoffs.
All playoffs, all season, realistically.
Mhm.
And, you know, we saw an Eagles team that wasn't scared to throw the football, and they threw it well. You know what I mean? And they were going right at Trent McDuffie, which was crazy to see because he's one of the more premier cornerbacks in the league. And, you know, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith were just having their way with them. There was no pass rush as far as trying to get to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was able to do whatever he wanted to.
Right.
And I think that's why he had such a easy time, you know, dissecting the Chiefs defense. Steve Spagnuolo, I know, was probably irate because there were multiple times when he would call up a, you know, all-out blitz on a third down. And then, for example, I think it was earlier in the game, ran an all-out blitz, got the sack.
But somebody
guy was offside. Literally, he didn't even jump offside.
Zone infraction. He was just lined up.
Lined up offside.
Yeah,
and
that's type of shit. That I saw that play in particularly pissed me off.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, yo, you see where the ball is.
Like,
just look down the
seriously.
line and move the fuck back.
Come the fuck on.
Then the other play that really pissed me off was that Saquon Barkley personal foul that they gave to the Eagles, where the play was over with and the guy kind of like bumped Saquon and they gave him a personal foul. I was like, really? But then I was just like, okay, whatever. And then when they gave A.J. Brown that push off for the offensive pass interference on that one catch, that one was also crazy. And
he kind of did get the face mask a little bit and tugged it just a touch, but still, I don't think it was enough.
And to some capacity, you could argue that like because his hand was in his face mask and he did move it, it wasn't like he just like put his hand there.
Right.
He moved his face mask. You can kind of argue like, okay, face mask is a face mask. You're turning his head. Yeah. You could kind of make that argument. Do I like it? No, because it's in the Super Bowl. You kind of just want to let the players make plays and let them win the game. But if you're going to call a call in that situation, the face mask and yanking a little bit was kind of egregious. Yeah. So, okay, fine, flag. But the one on Saquon Barkley is like, that's like a momentum play. It's the same way where like when defensive linemen get flagged for personal, what's the actual call? Roughing the passer. And their momentum is already just taking them into the quarterback, and then they like, hit the quarterback, and the quarterback fall, and the referee is like throwing the flag, and it's like, come on, dog. Like, they're grown men.
Yeah.
He can get hit. He can get pushed. You know what I'm saying? Like, the quarterback can get pushed.
Absolutely.
So that one, but I think those couple of plays were the deflating things early on for the Kansas City Chiefs. The times when they made good plays, they got these big penalties. Because I think when the Saquon thing happened, the Eagles were like, it was like 2nd and 26 or something.
Yeah.
And then with the sack, it was, like you said, the third down, and they got the big sack. It's like those two plays, for me, changed the momentum of that game early on, and the Chiefs never were able to get back. But moving on. Go ahead.
Just to wrap that up real quick, like all season, the Chiefs have been able to find ways to win. And, they weren't necessarily playing bad football. They just weren't playing their best football. Like in the Super Bowl, they played their worst football all season.
Yeah.
Which is, exactly when
not
you
expected.
need to be playing your best football.
Which is just not expected.
Exactly.
It's just not Chiefs.
Yep.
It's not the Chiefs brand of football.
It's not their DNA.
Nope. And so moving on to the next person that should stay the fuck out of the kitchen, and I'm just going to make this quick. Arturas Karnisovas. I'm just going to say, fuck you. A big fuck you. And I'll explain later on in the show why I feel that way.
I think, seeing him on this segment, I'm pretty sure people could understand why. We know what happened at the trade deadline.
But it's bigger than that.
Yeah, it's way bigger than that. And we're going to get into that in our later segment. So,
you ready?
Without further ado.
Moving on to the halftime report. All right, you know where we're going to start this at. Everybody knows where we're going to start this at. Philadelphia. Okay, fine, fuck it. I have to tell Coach Moo, you were right.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia won the Super Bowl. Also, I have to apologize to the Philadelphia organization because I said fuck them for not allowing Saquon Barkley to get his rushing record. And they said they did this because they wanted to preserve him and make sure that they can make a strong Super Bowl run. And what did they do?
They did.
Made a strong Super Bowl run. And what did they also do? Win the Super Bowl. So I guess they know more than I do. So kudos to them. Kudos to them.
Fuck them.
But still fuck them. However, I will ask you this, Coach. Were you impressed or were you not impressed with this Philadelphia Super Bowl win?
Very impressed.
Very.
Because we... walking into this game, people were like, "Oh, I'm not gonna watch it because the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. Chiefs have the refs on their side. They're gonna get the
I'm gonna mention that. I'm gonna talk about that part.
I can't wait to get into that because I saw quite the opposite in that Super Bowl. But anyways, very impressed. The Philadelphia Eagles just dominated that game on all levels of the field.
Yeah,
defensively able to pick off Patrick Mahomes and defend the pass as they did. Offensively, the offensive line's the greatest in football. There is no
Okay.
doing anything to that offensive line if they can stay healthy. And, if they could bring all those guys back and they don't lose anybody in free agency, I see Philly possibly making another strong run next year simply because of how deep they are in the trenches, not only on offense, but on
the
defense as
yeah.
well.
They're going to be here. They're going to be a problem.
Jalen Carter's an absolute stud. Josh Sweat
is a great
compliment.
compliment.
Brandon Graham probably retiring after this year, but also great leader, great player. And then that secondary of the Eagles, man, they went from 28th or 29th in the league last year, like 23rd, something middle of the pack towards the bottom half into the best defense, like yardage and pressures created.
Well,
and stuff
I'll say
like that.
my argument only to that is it's easy to be a great secondary when you have a great defensive line.
Well, yeah, but of course you also brought in, play caller Vic Fangio, right? And he's one of the premier. He's one of the greats when it comes to coordinating in this league. So I personally am very, very impressed with the win that Philly pulled out, considering that it was against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I think going into the Super Bowl, we all thought, okay, Patrick Mahomes is back. He's gonna show us. Kansas City's going to show us why they're Kansas City. You know what I mean? That's the kind of the prediction we made. That offensive attack is going to look so great again. And Mahomes is going to have his way. Kelsey's going to go crazy again. You know what I mean? He's going to have himself a game.
That was the thought. Yeah.
And that just simply didn't happen. That simply didn't happen, and Philly had their way on offense. Simple as that.
Yeah, I'm not. See, a hot take for you assholes in the comment section would be me saying that the Philadelphia Eagles win was not impressive. You see how that is a take to try to be viral? I'm not doing that. But I will say it was mildly impressive because they kind of came in and did exactly what I thought what they could do. I didn't say not what they were going to do, but what I thought they could do.
Okay.
Their defensive front, I had already said and mentioned plenty of times that it was probably the best defensive line in all of football and that they were very dangerous, and that if they could get to Mahomes with just 4 people, it would make it tough, which they were able to do. They were able to just muck it up with just only 4 guys rushing Patrick Mahomes. I don't even think they sent one blitz the entire game. So they were able to do that. Offensively, I thought that Saquon was going to be kept because I did think Kansas City was going to do that. So I did predict that Saquon was going to still be Saquon, but it wasn't going to look the same. I thought he was going to still have over 100 yards, but they kept him from doing that.
They kept him, yeah.
What I did not expect was the way Kansas City was going to play and how they were going to put the Philadelphia Eagles in situations where Jalen Hurts really didn't have to do too much, but just do enough to make things happen. He had a rushing touchdown, which was from a tush push. He had a couple touchdowns that were basically from short field advantages. He even still threw an interception that nobody even gives a fuck about because it was just such a route by the Philadelphia Eagles that his interception didn't even make a fucking difference.
And then he did have that
game.
beautiful ball to
exactly. So I mean, like, I was mildly impressed because I don't feel like this was a game where the defensive line did their damage and did what they were supposed to do. So I was more impressed by the defensive line than anything else, even though I kind of knew who they were. But as far as just like the entire team of Philadelphia, I don't think I was just like wowed by anything. Like Jalen Hurts didn't wow me. Saquon Barkley was kept under wraps. It was more so that defensive line that really came and showed the fuck up and showed out and really took over that fucking game by themselves. Like obviously you can't take away their defensive front, but just for the sake of hypotheticals, if you remove a little bit of the force that the defensive line was giving Philadelphia, then now you have to start sending extra guys to get that type of pressure, and that probably opens up the passing game a little bit more for the Kansas City Chiefs.
And who better in quick game than Patrick Mahomes?
But because you were able to simply rush that 4 and sit down in the zones that Travis Kelce would normally occupy, it made it a lot tougher for Patrick Mahomes to get those quick reads off, because now the quick reads aren't there because you're sitting down in the zone and you're rushing 4 that's able to get to him and bring that pressure.
Yeah, no doubt. But
go ahead.
Yeah, I think I see your points as far as like why you think it was mildly impressive. Again, like agreeing with you on this point simply because we see the way the roster is constructed.
Yeah.
And they're great all around. Like the defensive line's great. The secondary's great. You know what I mean? They drafted so well in the draft. They drafted Mitchell and DeJean, 2 rookies that have been starting all year, have been playing great all year.
Mm-hmm.
You still got Big Play Slay.
Yep.
You've got those guys in the secondary. You look at the
And
offense
you
again.
and you got C.J. Gardner too, right?
Yep, you still got C.J. Gardner Johnson,
Yeah.
and then moving on to the offensive side, we know who they got. You know what I mean? It's like they got so many big names, and so many guys that just do their role and do it well.
Yeah,
and that's what you need. But I would like to ask you now, Coach. What the fuck happened to the Chiefs? And who really is to blame for this loss?
I think I got an answer.
Is it Patrick? Is it the defense? Is it Andy Reid? What happened in this Super Bowl, Coach?
So here's my breakdown. 60% goes to Andy Reid, 30% goes to Patrick Mahomes, 10% goes to the defense. I'll start out with the defense first. The defense honestly did the best that they could. And as far as stopping the run, they did better than I thought. But when you're on the field so goddamn much, like I've expressed a lot, it's a lot harder to play defense in the NFL. One, because you're always trying to respond to what the offense is doing, and your momentum is shifting backwards. You're always backpedaling, especially for the DBs and linebackers and safeties. Only people that's going in a forward momentum on defense is your defensive line.
Right.
And they're not getting the pressure. So it puts a lot of work on the secondary to be able to manage and facilitate A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard, and all the rest of these guys from being able to do what they want to do. But when you're getting no pressure, it's only so long the secondary can hold up. But they stopped the run, which was a big part of the equation to keeping this game in good hands for the Kansas City Chiefs to win. But then that moves me to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick never adjusted to what was happening on the field. And I don't know if that was due to play calling. I don't know if that was due to him just being a little indecisive with the football, because the areas in which he normally would target was just not available because the Eagles were sitting down in those particular zones and those soft coverage areas where Travis Kelce likes to operate. They were sitting down a lot in those areas, so you couldn't force it. And his wide receivers weren't doing the best job of making themselves available in the secondary of the zone defense. And I know you're going to say something about that, but I will say this. I think that Patrick Mahomes has become too Travis Kelce dependent over the past couple of years. And especially in the Super Bowl, he had become too Travis Kelce dependent. And I don't think he built up enough trust with his wide receiver core and DeAndre Hopkins and Marquise Brown, because Hollywood has been hurt. Rashee Rice didn't even play. And DeAndre Hopkins was a late trade-in that you got probably like in week, what was that, week
I think right
11,
before the trade deadline,
week 10, week
like
11, week 9, somewhere between that time. So it's like the only real person that he trusted on the offensive side of the football was Travis Kelce, and the Eagles made sure to take his ass out the equation.
And Xavier Worthy as well.
And Xavier Worthy.
Who had himself a game.
Who did okay, but it was just in a losing effort, right? Yep. So I give 30% to Patrick, but who I really say fucked this up is Andy Reid. And surprisingly, I would have never thought I would come to this table and come to this conversation today saying that Andy Reid got outcoached by fucking Nick Sirianni and Vic Fangio.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Vic Fangio is a hell of a defensive coordinator, so
right.
this is no slight to him. I know he's a Hall of Famer coordinator. I know his pedigree. I know exactly what he brings to the table. But Andy Reid is Andy fucking Reid. And there was just no adjustments made to what was happening. Okay, you start the game off in a spread set, shotgun set, 5 offensive linemen, nobody chipping the DEs, nobody helping the tackles. There's no tight end chips. There's no running back chips. Hell, there's not even a running back that's just standing in the backfield to even pick up an extra guy that's coming in with the pressure to be able to stop and hold Mahomes. None of that shit was happening for the entire game.
Yeah.
You never made no adjustments. So it's like, okay, you see in the first quarter that your 5-man offensive line cannot handle this pressure that's being put on by the defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles. So why aren't you going to a 2 tight end set, or at least a 1 tight end set where that tight end can chip every single time and then come off? Have Travis Kelce sit first, chip somebody, then go out there and make a move to at least buy some time so that Patrick Mahomes has the ability to survey the landscape of the field. But every time Patrick gets the ball, he's under pressure. Under pressure, getting hit, getting hurried, all of those things. So you never made that adjustment. The second thing you never did, you never ran the fucking ball.
Yeah.
So all you did was allow the Philadelphia Eagles defense to sit back, pin their ears back, and just understand all we got to do is go downfield, 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 downfield.
And that's so draining on
and
offensive line.
it's so draining on the offensive line because you never give the offensive line a chance to hit back. You never give them a chance to push back and hit back and make it aggressive and set a tone. You allowed the defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles to set a tone for the entirety of the game, and you never let your offensive line get back. It even made Trey Smith look like he shouldn't be worth the money that everybody think he should be getting in free agency. And we'll talk about that the next episode, but we got a lot of conversations to have about what the Bears should be really looking at and what they should be doing based upon how this Super Bowl really played itself out. It's a lot of things to look at, but that's next episode.
Yeah.
But I think for me, like I said, it's 60% Andy Reid because his scheme on offense was just absolutely horrific, terrible. It's like he turned into Matt Eberflus as a coach. It's like he turned it to him for like one game, or turned into
Shane
Waldron or something like for one game, or Luke Getsy or Ben Johnson, who decided that he wanted to do all of these magical plays at the wrong time.
Still put up 30 points.
Yeah, but it's against the Washington Commanders who had no good defense. But my point is, you make no adjustments for the entirety of the game. That's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, 60% to Andy Reid, 30% to Patrick Mahomes, because I expected Patrick to at least come to the sideline and be like, yo, coach, what the fuck are we doing? We have to change this shit. I'm getting my ass beat out there. Because here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes may have a little bit more reverence and a little bit more humbleness to him that he might have to shake after this season. Because I will say this, if Tom Brady was getting his ass beat like that in the first quarter, he's going to the sideline and yelling and chewing the fuck out of Josh McDaniels and saying, change this fucking shit up or we're going to fucking lose. I'm out there getting my ass beat. Change this shit up now. Tom Brady would have been on the sideline smacking the shit out of his offensive coordinator. Like, bro, if you don't change this shit, I promise you, your ass will be fired this season because I'm going upstairs.
Yeah, right. I'm going upstairs.
I'm going upstairs if you don't change this shit up because I'm not finna get killed out here. We are here to win a fucking Super Bowl. The shit ain't working. Let's make adjustments. Simple as put. Tom Brady would have been on the sideline going fucking crazy. And I didn't see that from Patrick Mahomes. I didn't see him galvanizing. I didn't see him being mad. It felt like he showed up to a funeral. That's how his whole mood was. His entire mood was like he showed up to a funeral as if, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just going to say as if he knew something we didn't. That's how his whole aura was the entirety of the game. I never saw him not one time go to the offensive. I've seen plenty of games where things were going bad and he's walking to the offensive line and cheering them on and talking to guys, he did none of that. For a Super Bowl and when you could potentially three-peat, dog, like, I know people don't want to read into things and you're reading too much, but optics are optics, and this was unlike anything I've ever seen from the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe people could say they were just getting their ass whooped and they felt deflated from the jump, but I've seen them getting their ass whooped before. All season they were getting their ass whooped.
Yeah.
There was not one game where they were just outright beating anybody, no matter who the competition was. All season long, they had to come back and win every single game just about. Down 14, down 10, down 12, every single time. Most of their games were won in the fourth quarter. So an entire season in which you've had to do nothing but fight your way back means that all season, all you've been doing is making adjustments, making changes, engaging your teammates, building a fiery competition in them. And in the Super Bowl, none of that happens? None of that? I don't know. But it felt like he showed up to a funeral.
Yeah. I was also very surprised to see that from Mahomes. The only guy I really saw with any fire was Andy Reid. And we saw, in previous
You saw
games,
fire from Andy Reid?
towards the offensive line, towards the offense. Yeah, we were getting a lot more camera shots on him, just yelling at people. I haven't seen that all year. I haven't seen that ever.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And maybe that has been the case the whole time, but we've never seen that be the camera view.
Okay.
And it's it was surprising to see, because usually we're seeing the quarterback do that, or we're seeing Travis Kelce fucking start shaking Andy Reid, you know what I mean? Trying to get him going.
That's what I'm saying. They've gotten into fights before. Travis Kelce has gotten into it with Andy Reid and all.
Well, Travis Kelce's too much of a pretty boy now to be doing that type of shit.
Oh, he's a Swiftie?
Yeah, he's got a Swiftie. He's got the flow going. He needs to go back to the buzz cut and play some goddamn football is what he needs to do. And stop bitching and moaning after every single time he gets hit hard, because that's what he was doing because of his flowy-ass hair. But regardless, just to quickly kind of give my point on what happened to this Chiefs team, I think we saw on the biggest stage, and we're going to talk about this next episode with the Bears, I think we saw on the biggest stage why you need to invest in the trenches. Because
which side of the ball? Both.
Because the offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs could simply not handle a four-man rush. And they were so porous, and poor Patrick Mahomes was running for his life and had no rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And offensive players cannot get open because Andy Reid had a shitty scheme and just kept sending guys down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no quick game. There was no run game.
Mm-hmm.
It seems so... It feels like deja vu. It feels like I've seen this before.
Oh, here we go.
And
I knew we were gonna pivot to this bullshit.
And I'm not pivoting.
We're gonna save it.
I'm just gonna make the quick comparison. But
yeah. I get where you're going.
I saw this all season from the Chicago Bears.
Here we go.
And I'm not saying it is directly the same thing, because of course it's not. But at the same time, it is so notable to see it happen on the biggest stage of football. In the Super Bowl in Louisiana, you've got the offensive line getting absolutely killed on a four-man rush.
Yeah.
We saw that all year in Chicago. We've seen a quarterback under duress, not able to make simple throws. He's on the move. He's got guys in front of him. He's overthrown because he's under duress. He is under pressure. He can't handle it all fucking game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? And, Patrick Mahomes, again, the 7 interceptions and 5 Super Bowls, he had 2 of them, last Sunday. One to DeJean for a pick 6, and the other one to I forget the linebacker's name, but that was a pretty sick pick where you laid out for it on the goal line. That shit was sick. But regardless, I saw this all year from the Bears, and to see it happen to the Chiefs on the biggest stage is not saying that, the Bears, why yada yada yada, if they just invested in the line.
I get what you're saying.
But
I get what you're saying. It's just saying that it's important.
Because then you look at the other team. You look at the winning team, the Eagles. They had no problems on the offensive line.
And problems on the defensive line.
And on the defensive line.
And that's where a lot of their money is. Yep. A lot of their money is in the trenches.
And I think that is going to be such an important point that was made and is going to go across the league this offseason and free agency.
I don't disagree.
Because, I know people weren't necessarily impressed with Trey Smith's performance, but after seeing how the Chiefs' offensive line played and how important it is to invest in the line like the Philadelphia Eagles had, Trey Smith's number might have just gone up even more.
Why?
Because of how important now people see that you need a good offensive line.
But do you want him is the question.
I mean, of course he didn't play necessarily his best game, but regardless, he had his hands full with fucking Jalen Carter all day, and we know Jalen Carter's an All-Pro.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Yeah, he's just a monster. And he still put up his own.
But
Trey Smith still put up his own against Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter was whooping his ass, coach. He's whooping his ass.
I don't know. But regardless, Trey Smith didn't play terrible. But I'm just saying it's not necessarily because of the performance Trey Smith had that puts his number up. I just think it's because of how important.
The value of a good offensive lineman. No, I 100% agree with you. My only thing about Trey Smith was that I don't know if the asking price is the same. I think he still gets paid, but I don't think the asking price is the same.
Okay.
But yeah, it doesn't change the value in which an offensive lineman such as himself has. You are right. Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. all this did prove in this Super Bowl is that investing in the trenches is how you build a football team.
Yeah.
Investing in the trenches is how you secure yourself an opportunity to be competitive year in, year out on both sides of the ball. If you have the guys in the trenches, you can find a way to make sure you're in a position to succeed, be competitive, and maybe not win a Super Bowl every year, but if things just happen to go your way, you'll always be in the thick of it. So, I mean, I don't disagree there. I don't disagree there. This is a Super Bowl that is argued like the power of the trenches. That's what you can call the Super Bowl, the power of the trenches Super Bowl, which is for next episode. This is why I want to, I'm glad that we're kind of bringing this up, because next episode, we're going to get into a lot about what the Bears should potentially be doing and looking at. But as far as the Super Bowl goes, this has been rated one of the highest Super Bowls in NFL history. But my question for you is, was this actually a good Super Bowl?
I mean, for it being the highest rated Super Bowl, I mean, was this a good Super Bowl? I mean, no.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's all I wanted to hear.
If it was a close game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then yeah. But I think, once the Eagles went up 3 scores, it's like, well, what the fuck am I watching at this point? And like the thing is, like, even throughout all of that, going into that third quarter, even though the Eagles were up by 3 or 4 scores, we're like, here come the Chiefs. They're going to make their run. And, like, I think that's what kept viewers kind of engaged throughout, is because people were just putting it off, and we were like, oh, Patrick Mahomes is about to do his shit in the second half. Like, we're going to see why KC is KC and all this stuff. But I will say, though, and it was very interesting to see, because, of course, there's been the whole narrative in the media talking about the refs in Kansas City and how they're in unison. But I think as far as this Super Bowl goes, I think the NFL tried to make a point.
And I want to table that. We're going to get there. But then I want to ask you this, because we're going to get back to that, because being so that this is one of the highest rated Super Bowls, that is a problem for me. But I want to ask you, were you disappointed in the fact that history was not made in this Super Bowl, that we did not see a three-peat? Did that bother you?
That didn't bother me, simply because I think it put on a great narrative for Philadelphia, because they're kind of the history stoppers.
Yeah, can we get Graphic 8? Graphic 8 is the one
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Philadelphia has stopped both New England from being able to have a three-peat, and they've also stopped the Kansas City Chiefs. So it seems like whenever you want to have history on the line right now, whenever you want history to be on the line, you call up the Philadelphia Eagles to make it the hardest thing to happen.
Yep. So, simple as that. Yeah. I mean, they, of course, in the year that Philly won it, it was Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Which
that killed
was so
it.
funny.
Yeah.
And Doug Peterson at the time, of course.
And the argument is made that the quarterback that beat the quote unquote GOAT is a lesser quarterback. Like Jalen Hurts is a lesser quarterback than Patrick Mahomes, and Nick Foles is obviously a lesser quarterback than Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what it is about calling up Philadelphia when history is on the line, but it seems like whenever history is on the line and Philadelphia is in the Super Bowl,
fuck that.
You might want to put your money on Philly.
Right, exactly. So it was pretty interesting to see that happen, of course, which I think also made it, I could see why also it could have been a good Super Bowl to watch, because, history was on the line. And I think that narrative was so interesting to see play out. And to see Philly come in and just dominate the football game was like, oh, shit.
I think that's what made it not great to me.
Definitely not great. That's why, like.
But going back to your point, so I want to get into that. I want to get that Super Bowl rating graphic up, graphic number 9, because I want to get back to your point about the fact that the referees, the NFL was trying to make a point with the refereeing. For me, that's why this Super Bowl, I don't think it helps the NFL going forward, because the NFL put themselves in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation from the viewer. They allowed the media to contrive a narrative about the Kansas City Chiefs getting help from the referees, and that's why they were basically a dominant team. So then you get them in the Super Bowl on a time when history can be made, and the Kansas City Chiefs end up looking like something else that we've never seen before. And on top of that, you have some questionable calls, at least that one personal foul that you gave on Saquon Barkley. You get that play that really helped to change momentum in the Philadelphia Eagles' favor. And now you start to look at things from a different perspective, because now that the Chiefs look the way that they did, now you do have some fans who are walking around saying, see, without the referees, the Chiefs ain't shit. The Chiefs are fucking trash. The Chiefs are garbage. It's the referees that's been helping them the entire time. They're the Kansas City frauds and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, then if they win, depending on if there's some questionable calls and all the other stuff, then you have the same people going, see what we're saying? It's the referees. Philly got cheated. Philly was supposed to win. Those calls were bogus. Blah, 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 blah. So it's like, you kind of undermined, in my opinion, the NFL undermined from a viewership and from my perspective as a viewer, they undermine to some degree the totality of the integrity of what this game could have been, in my opinion. Because I'm walking into this game thinking, well, if the Chiefs win and some questionable calls, are the referees really helping the Chiefs?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just got their ass beat. Like, they just got fucking killed. Have the referees been helping them this entire time? So are they not the golden franchise?
Mm-hmm.
Is Patrick Mahomes not as good as we think he is? Wait. Nah. Is it true? I don't think that helps them. I think that backfires on them in the long run. I think we leave this Super Bowl with more questions about the validity of maybe not the validity of the Philadelphia Eagles winning this, but we have more questions about the validity of should the Chiefs have even been in this position in the first place. And I think that hurts the NFL more than anything else. And this might be the last time we see Taylor Swift at a Super Bowl, by the way.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, just brutal. Like
that's gonna break my heart. Without Taylor Swift there, I don't want to watch it.
Oh, well,
what can I do?
Well, she got booed when she got showed on the screen.
And that was crazy too.
It was.
That was crazy too.
Very crazy. But just talking about these Super Bowl ratings real quick. Obviously, as we see, it was the most watched Super Bowl ever. It feels like the narrative every year.
I feel like every year they say
the most watched Super Bowl. And then we get to the next year. Oh, the most watched Super Bowl.
They're great. Like, what are they? Great car salesmen.
Right. Seriously. It's like, you got this 2025
blowout sale.
President's Day sale. No, come get your car now. And most watched Super Bowl. Best Super Bowl ever.
Every single Super Bowl is the most watched ever.
You gotta watch this one because it was the most watched. But in reality, we know why it was the most watched, because just more and more people are watching the Super Bowl every year.
Well, that and more people, I think this year more people wanted to watch the Kansas City Chiefs lose.
And it's so funny because the whole narrative was that people were like, "Oh, I'm not watching this year's Super Bowl. Oh, I'm not watching it because the Kansas City Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl, and it's all because of the refs, and the refs are going to control this game, and Kansas City's going to get their 3P off of bullshit, and I'm not watching this."
And then there was so much satisfaction in watching them lose.
Yeah. And then, so many people didn't watch the game that it ended up being the most watched Super Bowl. So, like, it's kind of funny how you guys just say this shit, out of your ass, but then, regardless, you're at your buddy's house and you're still watching that fucking game.
Because they probably saw an update of the score and was like, Chiefs are losing? I have to watch.
Right. So, I mean, it's, again, but I also think it goes to accreditation because of how global the NFL product has become.
Yeah.
And, more than ever, like next year, they're playing a game in Ireland. Like, I think they're playing a game maybe in Australia as well. Like, they're playing everywhere. Like, they just played a game in Brazil this year. They've had the London games for a while.
A long time.
The NFL.
I think they did a game in Mexico City too, right?
I believe so. Yeah. And it's like, just the NFL and American football has become so global,
why they're trying to make it more global.
Yeah, and it's becoming every year. More and more people are watching, and that's why every year it's become the most watched Super Bowl because
they're getting more eyes.
It's just more eyes, and it's natural. You know what I mean? It's like when the World Cup comes on. It's it's the world's game, right? Yeah. Everybody knows soccer. Everybody can watch soccer and understand it. So when you do see other nations going at it, it's like, oh shit, let me tune in because America's playing.
But think soccer has more of an impact because it's like country versus country.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, for at least American football at the moment, we don't have country v country
No,
like
we
that
don't.
in tackle football.
We
So
don't.
unless that at one point gets integrated, which I doubt it does.
I mean, there could be a London team coming. There could be a Mexico City team coming. There
Oh,
could be
you're
an
saying
Australia team.
yeah?
It could literally happen.
I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars were supposed to move to London at
Yeah.
some point a couple years
Yeah.
ago, so
It can-
I
it
wouldn't
can-
be surprised.
It can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think the
Yeah.
logistics of it would be pretty tough, though, if they do go overseas.
Yeah,
I
because
think their most realistic option would be to go to Canada.
yeah,
Just
and Mexico, Mexico
or
and Canada, somewhere staying within the North American.
Because if you got
front.
if you got to make a 10-hour flight overseas to Europe
Yeah, to
and
play a football game
every
at
week,
at a different time zone.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
it's too much of a mess. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I do believe this being the highest rated Super Bowl is kind of just like almost a double narrative. Just because. Sure, it's the highest rated Super Bowl, but highest rated meaning just most watched. And of course it's the most watched because more and more people are just watching football today than ever before.
Now I want to ask you this just really quickly before we get to our next segment. Does this now make the Philadelphia Eagles the new face of the team, like the face of the league? Are they the new NFL franchise to build around and to marquee around and market around?
Well, build around. Are you saying like as a
are they the new
company?
Yeah, are they the new Kansas City Chiefs?
No.
Are they the team to invest in now?
I don't think so. I think the Chiefs are still going to be the Chiefs just because of the national attention they still have, and Patrick Mahomes being who he is, and Travis Kelce being the diva he is, and having his famous girlfriend, and Andy Reid being one of the best coaches ever, and just the Chiefs being this dynasty because they are.
I think it only works if they make a splash move, but we'll talk about it.
And even if they don't, I think going into next season, like they've already put out some odds for the Super Bowl. Kansas City's right up there with Philly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they did make the Super Bowl, so that's probably
they're
why
probably
they're 1
still
and
right
2.
there, yeah.
But like again, Kansas City is that team you talk about going into every year.
Yeah, right, because they got Patrick Mahomes. But
Exactly.
I think they've lost some of that market share as far as being the team for the NFL to market as the team to beat. I think that has now turned to Philadelphia. But Kansas City, they can get that back if they make a splash move in the offseason, which we're going to talk about. But I want to talk about, did Jalen Hurts deserve to be the MVP?
Ooh.
And we don't have to last long on this, but I just want to get your thoughts.
Do I think he deserved MVP? I mean, it was cool to see him win it because, like I said earlier in an earlier episode, he's got some D1 haters. All right, he's quickly become one of the most hated quarterbacks in the league just because of like the way he holds himself. He's kind of more of like a cooler guy. He doesn't necessarily let the media.
It's like a calm, cool arrogance without being arrogant.
Exactly, and people don't like that shit. They're like, why don't you give us some fire?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
either be outwardly arrogant or be humble, but don't
Exactly.
be like calmly like, I don't have to listen to you guys.
Right. You know what I mean? Like they are so pissed that he just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, seeing him win Super Bowl MVP was pretty cool to see too, because it kind of does shut up all these D1 haters that I'll do hate on Jalen Hurts, Coach Moo. But anyways,
you don't rock on him either like that.
Not like that, but like regardless, I wasn't hating on the guy. I didn't think he was going to win then the game, which I still think he didn't.
I didn't think he won.
You know what I mean?
I didn't think he won the game either.
So technically I was right, but I thought the run game was going to be more prowess than what yada yada yada. But regardless, did Jalen Hurts deserve MVP? No.
Cool. That was going to be my answer. I don't need to say further anything else. No.
You know who I had winning it?
Who?
Not one person.
The defensive line.
The Eagles' defensive line. They should have just gave.
They should have gave. Hey, all four of you.
Yep.
Come up here to the stage.
Yep, just come get it, man.
Come get this trophy, and then y'all can figure out how to fuck for the rest of y'all life. Y'all gonna spread this trophy around.
If anybody, if you were to pick one guy on that defensive line,
Sweat.
I'm picking Josh Sweat for the game he had. You know what I mean? Because again, it's not season MVP, it's Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
He had the best performance.
He had the best performance. Without the defensive line dominating that game, I don't know if you put Jalen Hurts in those positions, those short field positions, and the Eagles offense in those positions to do the things they did, because Saquon didn't show up. So if you don't get those turnovers, if you don't get that type of pressure, and you're stopping Saquon from running, now we get a whole different football game where Jalen Hurts has to turn into this marquee passing quarterback, which I don't think he is yet. He can still become that because he's still a young quarterback.
Yeah.
There's still time for him to develop into that. But I will say, with Jalen Hurts winning the MVP, what it does do, it kills the narrative of the dual threat quarterback not being a quarterback that can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I will say him getting MVP kills that narrative. So if you are the Lamar Jacksons, if you are the Josh Allens, if you are Patrick Mahomes, who's already won, but they don't consider Patrick Mahomes a dual threat quarterback, which I don't know why they don't. But if you are Justin Fields, if you are Caleb Williams, if you are Jaden Daniels, if you're any of these, all of these quarterbacks that have the ability to get out the pocket, move, and be used in RPO actions and have run plays designed for you, Jalen Hurts has proved that that is a formula in which you can win. Now, that also means you got to have fucking dogs on the trenches in your offensive line, so it's not like you can just throw them out there.
Exactly.
Chicago. It's not like you can just throw them out there for the longest of time. Baltimore. It's not like you can just throw them out there and do those things like that. Houston. So get an offensive line, help these guys. So when you do that, you create even more of a dual threat quarterback that can take advantage of all of their skills. And while one skill may not be up to par with the other one, it allows things to offset and balance things out when you have a good offensive line. So I will say that is the biggest benefit for Jalen Hurts winning MVP because it kills that narrative. But I don't think he should have been MVP.
Still though, congrats to him on winning.
Congrats
it.
to him.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's deserving of the MVP, not for his performance, but I think just because of the narrative that has been put on him all year,
he got it.
The hey, he's got it. That's probably why he got it.
Yeah.
So,
all right, moving on.
I know you've been waiting to talk about this shit.
Yeah, I have because I think this is going to change the whole marketing scheme because I think, like I said, I think the NFL, because of the Super Bowl, will move on to making Philadelphia, at least for this next season, potentially, the marquee franchise to market around and say who can beat Philly, who can bring them down. But I think Kansas City has an answer for that if you're talking about who should be the team to beat. And I want to bring up Graphic 11. And I want to read this. As a kid dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning the Super Bowl. And that goal fuels me today more than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. These past 8 years have shaped me into the man I am today. While I love calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. Beautifully written by ChatGPT for Myles Garrett.
Shout out ChatGPT. We love you, man.
Shout out ChatGPT.
Let me tell you, as a student, man, we appreciate ChatGPT.
Beautifully written. No, I believe that was his words, but just joking. I will say this. That's the splash. I think Kansas City should be going all in on Myles Garrett. I know we talked last episode about who should get Myles Garrett. We threw names out there, the Commanders, maybe the Bears, even though I don't think the Bears should be putting their draft capital and trying to get Myles Garrett. But if there is a team that is in position to say, fuck these picks, it's the Kansas City Chiefs, because your picks in the first round are always going to be at the bottom as long as Patrick Mahomes is there. So if you got to give up draft capital to get a guy like Myles Garrett onto your team and onto your defensive line, when we see that the trenches is the most important thing, you get Myles Garrett in the Kansas City Chiefs organization. And now you get back into the position in where you are the marquee team to look at in the NFL. Secondly, you have a superstar on that defensive line. And third, you now have a defensive line that teams have to worry about and that could potentially get you right back in the mix of going back on another Super Bowl run. Myles Garrett to the Kansas City Chiefs should be the only thing that the Kansas City Chiefs should be focusing on. I don't know if that takes 2 first-round picks, 3 first-round picks. I don't care what it takes. But Kansas City should be making that happen. And with the ability to restructure deals, because Patrick Mahomes signed a 10-year, $450 million a year, I'm pretty sure they can restructure it to where certain years he's getting paid this and he can get paid more on the back end. Whatever they got to do to facilitate getting Myles Garrett into that team, that is exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs should be doing. And I hope somebody in Kansas City is listening to the Halftime Podcast, because we are the greatest sports podcast in all of North America and soon to be the world. But when you are listening to me in Kansas City, hear me clear, hear me loudly, and hear me proudly. Myles Garrett to Kansas City should be the only focus in the offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs, minus the few other additional things that you might have to do and whatever the case may be. Probably getting some wide receiver depth, probably in the draft, 3rd round, 4th round, wherever you got to get it. But Myles Garrett to the Kansas City Chiefs is how you get yourself back into a position to get back to the Super Bowl, how you help Patrick Mahomes get back to the top, and how you help this defense become more formidable, because they have a good secondary that they've put together. Their defensive line is where they struggle the most. Chris Jones can't do it by himself anymore.
Very true.
You add Myles Garrett to that defensive line, and that defensive line becomes absolutely scary. Not to mention, if you get Myles Garrett, who knows what other individuals you may be able to poach and get them to come to Kansas City on good deals to try to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, just in that statement, Myles Garrett wants to win. You know, I mean, he's getting older. He's not old yet. He's still in the prime of his career.
I think he's 30, 29 or 30 or something like that. 29 or 30, one of those.
You know, as a premier pass rusher who does, you know, kind of benefit from his speed and also his hand speed and his power, that's not going to be there in like 3 or 4 years. You need to capitalize on what you got now. So I absolutely understand Myles Garrett requesting this trade. On the basis of Kansas City, of course, it would be the right move to make. Of course, you would want to make this happen. The only trouble I see happening is getting Patrick Mahomes to restructure the contract. Now, you know, if he does want to be the greatest, he'll do it. Because that's what Tom Brady,
want to be the greatest.
Because that's what Tom Brady did. Yep. You know what I mean? He always took discounts, crazy discounts to quarterback the New England Patriots just so they could go get other guys. One of the most selfish things you could do in football.
And he just lost.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So it's like I think it's very, very possible that they do ask him to restructure just so they could be like, yo, we want to pay you a little bit less now. We'll give you the money later.
You're gonna get your money.
Maybe in 6 years. Yeah, but like
it's gonna come.
It's gonna come. But we need a little bit of your money now so we could go reinvest it into another guy that's going to absolutely
help this team.
You saw it in the Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles were able to send a 4-man rush because they just had great guys on the defensive line. Imagine if Chris Jones gets fucking Myles Garrett on that defensive line. And Steve Spagnuolo is able to work with that as well.
And then don't mention the fact if you get something like that, Khalil Mack may show up too. He right in the division.
Yeah, very, very possible. Would he take a veteran discount?
If you want to win a Super Bowl, you might.
True. You know what I mean? And at that point, it's just
because he didn't got paid plenty of times.
At that point, it'd be Kansas City kind of putting together the old man Avengers. You know, like they traded for DeAndre Hopkins. They would have got Myles Garrett and they would have got Khalil Mack. It's like just trading for kind of that little bit different era of the NFL, which isn't really a different era, but go back 4 or 5 years. Khalil Mack's playing the best football of his life.
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins probably one of the best wideouts in the league. You know,
it'd be like when New York had Michael Strahan and O.C. Umenora.
Yeah.
It'll be like Umenora would be Myles Garrett. I mean, obviously Myles Garrett is the Michael Strahan in this situation, but he's younger.
Yeah.
And Khalil Mack will be like the O.C. Umenora. I think that was his name. I think that's how he said his name, something like that.
Sure.
But Khalil Mack will be playing that version of that where he still is effective, but just not the Myles Garrett effective. But if you got them both on the edge and Chris Jones in the middle,
so
I'm trying to tell you.
And here's the thing with the trade talk of Myles Garrett. I think it does take 2 firsts and probably a contract going back to Cleveland in order to get him. I think that's something Kansas City could definitely do. Of course, with having to restructure Patrick Mahomes' contract,
I would give them 3 firsts and a third.
Yeah, but again, seeing how they got to make that cap situation work, Lord knows that they can make that happen now. Would it be cool to see? Yes. Do I think it's really going to happen? No.
Yes.
I don't think so, simply because of how difficult it will be for them to make that situation work, considering they've got a decent amount of expiring contracts. I know they're going to try to, if they're going to restructure Patrick Mahomes' contract, I think the priority would be to get Trey Smith back.
I don't think that's a priority. I think they have.
See, and that's where I think they could go really wrong, because Trey Smith is one of the best guards in football.
I'm not saying he's not, but I know Philly has a backup to Becton. Becton, I think his name Mekhi Becton.
Mekhi Becton, yep.
Mekhi Becton is on a 1-year deal with Philly, and they already drafted a guard to basically kind of replace him if and when Becton's free agency.
You're saying Becton's going to KC?
I say Becton can be on the market,
but he's gonna demand a shit ton of money as well.
He'll be cheaper.
He just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he'll be a little cheaper than Trey Smith.
Yes, but regardless, if you're gonna get Myles Garrett, you still have a lot of money coming in that I don't know where you're putting that towards.
I don't know Kansas City cap space, but I do think they have a little bit more money than we think. I don't think they're just capped. Like they're obviously they don't have like the greatest cap space in the world.
While you're talking, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, but Travis Kelce may be on his way out. Travis Kelce may retire.
He might retire, but
or he might come back on a real friendly deal. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Especially if you can pull off a Myles Garrett trade. Like I think you have to have the conversations with Patrick, you have to have the conversation with Travis, and you have to tell them what the game plan is and how they play a pivotal role in helping to make changes that Kansas City would need to go back on another run. If that is the desire, I know that's the desire of Patrick, so I know Patrick won't have a fucking problem as long as whatever the restructuring is fiscally responsible for him to be able to manage his bills and everything like that. I'm sure he'll be okay to do those things, and I think Travis Kelce, at this point, I mean, he's with Taylor Swift. I'm sure money is not his concern as long as he's doing what he's supposed to be doing as a good partner and boyfriend to Taylor. So I think he can manage a few years of not getting the same type of contract that he did before. So I do think there's room and space to be able to make emphasis, because Myles Garrett is already on a contract. It's not like you have to bring him in and sign him to a new contract. You're just trading for the contract that he has right now. So you facilitate that and make space for that, and then you find a way. If you can't keep Trey Smith, I trust the same way that they found Trey Smith in the 6th round, because he is a 6th round pick. The same way they found Trey Smith in the 6th round, they can find somebody else. I trust them. What they haven't been able to do is draft good tackles. They've been able to draft good centers and guards, but they haven't been able to draft the best tackles. So they might need to put more emphasis on being able to pay a decent tackle more than they need to overspend for Trey Smith. And maybe they can replace Trey Smith with somebody that they can find in the draft and use and trust in their offensive line coach to be able to work that and make sense out of that. But what for sure they need is to beef up their defensive line. One of these trenches have to get beefed up. And in my opinion, with a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, you can always kind of work with your offensive line. But if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you need your defensive line to be something more formidable if you want to go back on a Super Bowl run. You have to.
Yeah, so looks like Kansas City going into this offseason is going to have 15.7 in cap.
So they're not paying Trey Smith anyway.
Well, yeah, right now he's making $3 million,
and they're projecting Trey Smith to be worth up to like 25, 27 a year. So it's obvious they have no plans in paying Trey Smith. So my thing is, if you can restructure a deal for Patrick Mahomes to get a Myles Garrett on your team, that's the move you do. That's the move.
Yeah.
And then you trust in your drafting, and then once you get Myles Garrett, that is your piece that you go into free agency and say, look, we got Myles Garrett. Come sign a 1-year deal with Kansas City. You know who we have as quarterback. You know who we have as head coach. You know what we were missing. Trench pieces. We got one on the defensive side. maybe you can be the one on the offensive side, and then you can show them the plan to be able to get their money in the future. That's the selling point. But if you get somebody like Myles Garrett, then you can start building that team. Other guys will see that and go, Myles Garrett, Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and I want to win a Super Bowl. You might be able to get those good, hardy free agents that's veterans to come over there for the 1 to 2 year deals on minimums, and you can be able to facilitate some stuff.
Mhm.
But I think it starts with being able to get a piece like that in Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's gonna be so tough to do that. Again, trying to find the cap, be able to do that, and just the money. I think it's very complicated. Can they get it done? I think they can. Is it likely? I don't know. I know Myles Garrett would love to come to Kansas City. It's not a matter of if it's gonna match. It's really the financial situation that really would prevent anything from happening. Because again, if you are gonna go ahead with that Myles Garrett move, you pretty much gotta assume you're losing out on Trey Smith. And we saw already what happened to the offensive line in the Super Bowl for Kansas City.
But I felt like I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
and
you know what I mean? So
I get what you're saying. But do you? Let me ask you this: are you willing to pass up Trey Smith to get Myles Garrett?
See, I don't know. I don't know because I feel like
Coach. Come on. We got a guy who was a bona fide Hall of Famer, a complete wrecking machine, game changer, probably the closest thing to Aaron Donald in this generation that we're gonna see again. You telling me you're gonna pass that up to sign Trey Smith, a 6th round pick?
Yeah, but he's a 25-year-old All-Pro.
That's fine, but we made him. We developed him. We coached him into this. We can do this again with another guy that has the intangibles.
See, but that's a process. And can you do that in the same year? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you can.
It's very,
even if
tough.
even if you can't do it with the draft, you can do it with somebody in free agency.
But
there is a veteran guard that you can bring in.
Sure, I mean, I could see that.
Hell, right now, the Bears are probably going to consider not bringing back Tevin Jenkins just to get Trey Smith.
Mhm.
There's your answer.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I think, me personally, like I was talking about this before the show. Me personally, based on coaching situation and where a team could actually afford the contract, and I think could be very good in very recent years, considering and all dependent on how they do in this free agency this year and how they draft. I could see Myles Garrett going. You're gonna hate me. To the New England Patriots. I could see him.
Why would he go there?
I could see him going with Mike Vrabel.
Why?
I think it's a perfect match. I think Mike
He said
Vrabel,
he wanted to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I understand, but just work with me here.
All right.
If New England can pull in guys from free agency and draft how they've been able to draft on the offensive end and still bring in guys on defense, make the contract situations work, because I think you've got your quarterback in Drake May. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think New England, I'm not saying I'd want Drake May. I'm just saying that I think New England is happy, New England fans, and I don't know, you could act as surprised as you want, but I think New England fans are happy with how Drake May played last year.
New England fans, please chime in when this episode drops. Please let us know. Y'all might like Drake May, but are y'all believers in Drake May like that? I don't know. They'll let us know.
I mean, I think they are. I think they're believers. I mean, is he going to be great? I don't know. But he made a Pro Bowl, didn't he?
But if Myles Garrett wants to win a Super Bowl,
yeah,
coach,
that I get. But I just think it's more realistic.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you
England.
this. The real reason why I don't think it's realistic that he goes to New England is because New England has to give up draft capital to get him. Why would they, as a building team, give up draft capital to get Myles Garrett?
Because Mike Vrabel is going to want Myles Garrett so bad, and he wants that pass rusher that he had when he was in Tennessee.
So why wouldn't you go after Michael Parsons, who is younger and probably would be a little cheaper than Myles Garrett?
Because you got to give up way more to get Michael Parsons.
No, you don't.
I think you do.
Why? Because he's younger?
Because he's younger.
But he's not Myles Garrett.
But what are you trying to say?
I'm saying that because Myles Garrett is Myles fucking Garrett.
But you're making it seem like they're like level.
Yes, there is.
I don't think so.
You don't. Wait, hold on. Wait, time out.
No, I don't think it's as far as you're saying.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I don't think so.
Yes, it is. Michael Parsons is nowhere near the level of Myles Garrett. Nowhere near. It's Myles fucking Garrett, and then the rest of these motherfuckers fall underneath that. I promise you. You don't watch Myles Garrett enough.
Listen, I feel like I have, and I think I've watched a decent amount of Michael Parsons too.
And you think Michael Parsons is anywhere on the level of Myles Garrett?
I just don't think he's as far off as you're saying. That's all.
Okay,
but that's fine.
No. Keep talking.
You know, you've got your opinion, and that's fine.
No, keep talking.
I'm sure.
My thing about New England is they're a building team, so they need all the picks they can.
That I understand. I just think just because of their cap situation and the direction that they're going to be going in, bringing in Mike Vrabel as that defensive guru at head coach, I think it would make a lot of sense for them to bring in Myles Garrett just so there is that consistent pass rush. I mean, and every team now is going to be more inclined to invest in the trenches than ever before, and I don't see why it would be a bad decision for New England to go after a Myles Garrett instead of betting on a guy out of the draft. I think it would make a lot of sense for them to go get Myles Garrett, and they have the financial stability and draft capital to do so, and their draft picks are worth more, so maybe they wouldn't have to give up as much as Kansas City in order to acquire a Myles Garrett. Maybe they could throw in a player instead of 2 or 3 first-round picks. They could throw in a first and then somebody else and still be able to attain Myles Garrett. Maybe they don't even have to throw in a first and throw in a couple of seconds. Who knows? I think they have to give up a first, but there's so many different avenues they could go with if he is going to end up in New England. I just think it makes sense. But, again, I don't know about Kansas City. I think they're going to try to do it. Will they be able to? I don't know.
I think they're a team. The only team that I think has a better chance of getting Myles Garrett is like the Washington Commanders, because they may be willing to forego some of their picks because they already got Jaden Daniels. So they might say, because we have our quarterback situation set up, we just need a splash. We can afford to give up picks in the first round and stuff like that because we got our quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a lot of a lot of cap space. See, my thing is what Kansas City is fighting against is the teams who think that they have their quarterback and a lot of cap space and is willing to forego picks. So that might be New England. That might be the Chicago Bears. That might be the Washington Commanders. My only thing about those teams as well, though, is that they're still building teams. Washington still has a lot of holes to fill on their defense. Myles Garrett is a hole to fill, but they have a lot more things to fill. Chicago has a lot of holes to fill on their trenches from the defensive line and the offensive line. New England has a lot of holes to fill as they're a building team. So my thing is with the building teams, my question for them would still be, are you willing to forego those picks? Kansas City is not a building team. They can forego as many picks as possible as can because they got the quarterback. They got pretty much the offensive line. They're drafting guys 5th round, 6th round, and they're drafting guys in the bottom of every round anyway. So my thing is they're not in the desperate need of needing the picks the way that these building franchises need their picks.
I think that's why they're. I get that. I just think financially it's so hard to do. That's why, like I said earlier, I think that's the only thing that would prevent Kansas City from getting the deal done.
Hey Patrick, let me holler at you, dog. Look, you want to win? You want to get back to the mountaintop? You want to rewrite history and get back to the Super Bowl and start this process all over again? Restructure that contract, baby. That's all I'm going to say. Restructure that contract. Restructure that contract.
Travis needs to restructure his.
And Travis, too. And Chris Jones, too. I don't care who it is. All those guys sit in the room with the financial team and say, look, what do we need to do to help make this team better? Y'all need us to restructure deals so that we get paid further on the back end? Cool, so we can bring it. I don't care what you got to do. But if you want to win and you want to get back to the mountaintop and rewrite this history, it's going to take guys foregoing some of the money that they're going to make next year and putting it on the back end to be able to get the guys that they want to keep. Whether that's getting Myles Garrett, which I think they should do, and signing somebody like Trey Smith, which I think they shouldn't do. They should let somebody else give him that contract and let Tevin Jenkins, who is most likely going to be the prime guy, to bring in unless you find a better veteran. But if Tevin Jenkins get let go, that's the perfect replacement for Trey Smith at right guard.
Is it though? Because he's constantly fucking hurt.
He's constantly hurt, but arguably people will say he's constantly hurt because the Bears' offensive line is so bad. So because the offensive line is so bad, he's always been put in situations where he's hitting over somebody's feet, landing on somebody's leg, or he's getting pushed back into somebody else and he got to get bent over and all this other stuff. So a lot of it they're saying is a contribution to how bad the line is. True or not true, we've seen a lot of people on this offensive line get hurt year in, year out. So to some degree, either our medical staff is terrible, either it is some merit to the offensive line and how bad they are can kind of contribute to guys getting hurt a lot, or we just pick guys who are injury prone. But one of those three are the factors. So for Tevin Jenkins, say because he's young, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say some of the fact that the offensive line is so bad that puts him in compromising situations below the waist and by the knee and ankle area, that contributes a lot to him getting hurt. And when he is healthy, he's an absolute dog at right guard. He's a mauler. He works perfectly well with Darnell Wright. So if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe it's not Tevin Jenkins, maybe it's somebody else, but I won't feel bad knowing that I have the offensive line coach that we have and the development that we've been able to do over the time period that Patrick Mahomes has been here. I think Tevin Jenkins is worth the gamble at the cost that he'll be to come to the Kansas City Chiefs.
So staying on the topic of contracts and trades and all this other
beautiful stuff,
all this talk. Let's move on to our next segment here. Pivoting to the NBA. Going to a guy we talked about in our Who Should Stay the Fuck Out the Kitchen segment. Chicago Bulls at the trade deadline. Once it passed, currently on the active roster have 6 point guards on the roster.
Or is it 6 point guards or 6 guards?
It's 7 guards. Because Taylor Horn-Tucker ain't a point guard.
They classify Kobe as a point guard?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Because he's both positions. So they've got 6 point guards, 7 guards total, realistically.
All right.
And you got rid of Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Alex Caruso.
Andre Drummond.
And what you got back was Josh Giddey, Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, Trey Jones.
And
just player-wise.
Okay.
I'm just talking players.
Yeah.
That's what you got. So, I would love to play this clip from the press conference right after the trade deadline from Arturas Karnisovas and saying what he thinks about what just happened in the trade deadline and the vision he has for the Chicago Bulls team. Let's run the clip.
Agency this summer.
Joe. And then Julia.
Joe Collins, Chicago Sun-Times. I'm confused now with your statement.
Mm-hmm.
The actions are of a team that understands it's a sinking ship when you trade arguably your 3 best players since the offseason. But if you're talking about still making a playoff push, it seems you are confused with what direction you're still going. I mean, I don't recall a team that's trying to get out of the middle that still wants to make a playoff push.
No, what I said that in our private also conversations with some of the media, that if, next 30 games, we're going to be out of the play-in and out of the playoffs, we'll get a good pick. But at the same time, if we, with this young team, can make the play-in and playoffs, it's going to be, I think, it's going to be accomplishment. Because if your young guys developing and translates into wins, I think there's growth. So that's what I meant to say.
So, bro doesn't know what the fuck he's talking. Bro's talking out of his ass.
You know what that reminds me of? You remember that commercial with Kobe Bryant and Kanye West when Kobe was talking to Kanye and he told him, like, are you half man and half beast of the same animal? And Kanye was like, what the fuck does that mean, Kobe Bryant? That's exactly how I felt looking at this, listening to Arturas talk. Was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And really quickly, I just want to play this, just read this statement from Billy Donovan, who after the trade said this. Clearly, we're making a shift. I want to be part of building something. But what direction are we going and how are we going to build it and what we are going to do? I don't think anybody inside the organization has those answers right now. Just because I don't know if anything is totally complete at this point. No, it's complete.
Yeah, it's funny because I mentioned that on
Last
week's
episode,
episode,
yeah.
and it applies even more today after this trade
Oh,
deadline.
it's complete.
Yeah,
It's complete. Oh, no. It's complete. It's done.
it's complete dog ass.
This was the move. And Billy is like, wait, what the fuck?
Yep.
Hold on. Time out. Let's start this from the top. We are a 9th, 10th seed already in the season.
I think like 11th at this point now,
Yeah.
you know?
With Zach LaVine on the team, right? So I don't know if in Artura's mind, he came into the season thinking that he had a great roster. But if you did, Arturas, you are heavily and utterly mistaken. This roster was not a good roster coming into this NBA season for the Chicago Bulls. Now, granted, I personally thought that the removal of DeMar DeRozan would open up space for a Kobe White or a Patrick Williams, specifically those two.
Yeah.
One of those two I had projected to take a leap to being able to produce consistently at the clip of what DeMar DeRozan gave in a different way, being able to shoot the 3-ball better and being able to provide more spacing on the floor. But neither Kobe White or Patrick Williams has been able to consistently give anything to the Bulls on a night in and night out basis. Most of the games that we lost this season while Zach LaVine was on the team, if you look at it heavily, it's either because Kobe White was scoring 9 points, 10 points, 11 points, or he was shooting so fucking poorly that it put more weight on a Josh Giddey to have to make some shots, or Alonzo Ball who was coming back to make some shots, or Zach LaVine having to score 40 some goddamn points. But here's the thing. If Zach LaVine goes out there and ball hogs and scores 40 to 50 points a night, then we're all saying, oh, he's not helping the young guys. He's not helping them develop. He's a terrible teammate. He doesn't provide winning culture. He's not doing winning basketball. Okay. But then if he loses because he's not trying to take over and ball hog, then it's, see, he doesn't contribute to winning. We don't win shit with Zach LaVine on the floor. So it's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
He was banking, and I'm sure he was banking on this. He was banking on Kobe being able to step up, Patrick Williams being able to be like a 14 and 16 point per game player. And now you have a Josh Giddey or Alonzo Ball who's able to facilitate to a Kobe White who's giving you 22 to 24, Vucevic who's giving you 18 to 22, Zach LaVine who's able to get you 24 to 28, Patrick who's able to give you 14 and 16, and now you got some shit cooking.
Yeah.
And then after the bench, you got Io, who's giving you maybe 8 to 10. You got Jalen Smith, who's giving you somewhere between 6 to 8. And then you got Tyler Horton Tucker and other guys filling in. So now you got a bench that's able to at least give you somewhere between 24 to 36 points a night. Bingo.
Yep.
That's a recipe for success. But when you saw at the beginning of the season that Kobe White couldn't give you anything, Patrick Williams wasn't doing shit in the starting lineup, Josh Giddey can't shoot to save his fucking life, Lonzo Ball was still coming back, Io was in and out the lineup because he was hurt, and then you had Jalen Smith, who was pretty much your only consistent bench producer. Why wouldn't you in your head, Arturo, say, okay, well, we got Brandon Ingram who's on the move, who, by the way, when we look at some of these trades, because I have to mention this shit.
Yeah.
Man. I should have had this already going.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram just signed an extension the other day, too.
All right. So, when we see that the Raptors gave Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, 1 first-round pick and a second-round pick to Brandon Ingram, you telling me that we couldn't give up Kobe White and Patrick Williams or something like that, somewhere within, or something like that, to get Brandon Ingram when all the Raptors gave up was Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk? We couldn't give up anything to get Brandon Ingram?
I guess not.
What are we doing here?
Seriously.
What are we doing? And then to compound that bullshit with saying, well, the goal is not necessarily to lose games. We still want the young guys to compete because I think it's valuable for them to make the play in. And what were our tourists?
Right.
In what world do you think it's a good idea to make the playoffs? It's not beneficial for us to win games now. What are the young guys going to learn by making a play-in and losing?
Getting their ass whooped.
And getting their ass whooped. What winning culture are they creating? Oh, because they're trying hard. Motherfucker, they were trying with Zach on the team.
Really, the only
They were barely winning with him on the team.
The only guy that would benefit and actually gain experience
Is
from
Modest.
making the play is Modest. That is it.
Because everybody else has already been a part
Right.
of the play-in runs.
Exactly.
They've already been a part of
Yep.
trying to make the playoffs.
Yep.
They've already been a part of a playoff series. Everybody on this roster has been a part of that
Everybody.
except Modest.
Yep, it's only Modest.
He's the only one that you are talking about, play-in will be good for development. Shut the fuck up, dog. Shut up. You are trying your best to not look like you don't know what the fuck you're doing, but it's too obvious now. You are in over your fucking head. And on top of that, this goes back to when I asked Casey Johnson last week when we showed and debuted the question that Casey Johnson read from me. If we were already in a position to keep the pick, all we had to do was stay in the 10th spot. And Zach LaVine could have easily, like I said, showed up some games, played other games, and let Kobe White try to lead us to victories. And if we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. Zach LaVine could have easily did that for you, told that line, and then when the play-in hit, all guns go, let's do this. Or Arturis, if you're so concerned about the 2025 pick and it's such a big deal, you could have easily said, well, is Brandon Ingram about as good as the type of player that we would end up getting in this 2025 draft? Yeah. Is Zion about as good as a player that we would probably get out the 2025 draft, top 10? Yeah, fuck yeah. What about some more players around the league that we could possibly look at to see get traded? Let's see who else got traded. Because we don't need De'Aaron Fox, but could Andrew Wiggins be good enough for one of those 2025 picks in the top 10? I think so.
Maybe. Yeah.
Vucevic could have been good for an Andrew Wiggins deal.
Maybe.
I don't think that could have been bad. So, DeAndre Hunter, no, he's not a top 25 pick. Not in the top 10. He's not as good as that. But is he better than Patrick Williams?
Yeah.
Is he more valuable than Patrick Williams?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We could have made a deal for that. What did DeAndre Hunter go for? 3 second-round picks, Karis LeVert, and George Niang. You telling me that the Hawks wouldn't have wanted Patrick Williams and add in a pad like Javon Carter, who they already said they wanted, and some second-round picks? No?
No, never.
Never that one.
Because the Bulls, no. I'm sorry.
So it's just like, I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't fucking get it. And nobody can tell me that this makes fucking sense at all.
No.
You are already losing with Zach on the team. You are already in position to keep your top 2025 pick. All you have to do was just do what you've been doing the entire season. Win some, lose some, win some, lose some. Stay right there in the bubble. Finish about where you were going to finish so you can stay in contention for that top 10 pick, make the play-in, and then make the playoffs. Now you kill two birds with one stone. You get your pick, and you still go to the playoffs. But something must have happened in the front office. And then the fact that you did this while this man was on paternity leave is also some pussy shit. That was some real bitch-ass shit. That you traded this man while he's trying to enjoy family time, a new birth into his family. You trade him while he's away.
Across the country.
While he's across the country. You don't even have the balls to do it while he's standing there in front of you. As much as he's had to deal with in Chicago from the lack of building the roster, the media turning their back on him, people and the fans deciding that DeMar DeRozan was a better option than him. All of the shit that he had to deal with when you teaming him up with Wayne Selden Jr., fucking injured ass Otto Porter Jr. that can never play.
Fucking Wendell Carter.
Wendell Carter Jr. Toppin Sadaransky being your big free agent splash. Give me a break.
Dude, yeah, so I was when I watched that clip before we put the show together, I was so happy when that Chicago Sun-Times reporter asked that question because he was going right at AK. And I was just so happy and like so satisfied to see like how much discomfort Arturas had when getting that question. He was like he knew his ass got caught. Like it's like when you got caught lying or cheating on a test, and the teacher calls you out for it, it's like, oh shit. That's how he was.
Yeah,
that's exactly how he was, and it's like, so I agree. It makes zero fucking sense, 0 cents. Like the Sun-Times reporter said, it really is confusing. Like, if you want to make the play-in or the playoffs, what sense does it make to trade away your all-star player, the guy that's averaging 24 to 26 a night, that is literally pretty much your only offense on certain nights, and that creates for everybody else because he's so centric on the offense? You have to look at Zach LaVine or he's going to put 50 on your dome. But no, it's going to make more sense if we trade him away and we get Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, Zach Collins, and our pick back. Oh, we still got the same chances of making the play. Oh, yeah, we're still going to try to make it because it's beneficial to our young guys. To which young guys? Kobe's been in the playoffs. Patrick Williams been in the playoffs. Lonzo technically was. Obviously, he was hurt, but he was. But I think Josh Giddey was with the Thunder. Yeah. Vooch has been in the playoffs. Jalen Smith was with Indiana.
In the playoffs, but with them. Yep.
Dalen Terry might have been on the team at that point.
He's been in the play-in.
He's been in the play-in. Julian Phillips hasn't. Granted. Modest hasn't.
Yeah.
Talon hasn't. But he's not.
He's with the Lakers at one point. So he's in the playoffs. Yeah.
He's a champion, isn't he?
Was he with them in 2020?
I think he might be. He might be.
He might be. I'll look that up. Keep talking though.
He might be. But regardless, I am just as confused as the Sun-Times reporter, and as confused as you are, Coach, because this makes 0 sense for the Chicago Bulls moving forward. Out of the 3 guys that you did trade Zach LaVine for, who do you realistically see staying long-term and actually being beneficial to the Chicago Bulls? I don't see one. Maybe Zach Collins, but like, is that a guy?
You telling me out of the current roster right now, who's going to still be on the Bulls?
No, I'm saying out of the trade we made for Zach LaVine.
Oh.
Those 3 guys that we got back, Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, and Zach Collins.
No, that Trey Jones is the guy that they're saying is supposed to be the piece of it all.
And regardless,
because Arturas has talked about him so much, that he's a pure point guard. He's the last of the pure point guard breed that passes.
And fuck all of that. Like, regardless, you walked out of this trade deadline with 6 point guards. 6! It doesn't fucking add up.
We're going to be the greatest passing team.
Oh, but guess what? We're going to have a lot of guys that pass the ball and average 4 points a game. That's what we're going to do well.
Because nobody can score on a consistent basis.
But look, we have 6 point guards, and guess what? We're making the play-in, though. And it's going to be beneficial to us because we're going to get experience instead of getting a better pick. No, we don't want that.
Oh, yeah, because he said that getting the top of the pick would be great, but that's not the biggest concern is getting top 3 or top 1 overall. Like, that's not the greatest concern. Our concern is competing. Now, I'm hoping that he's lying, and I'm hoping that he's already struck the deal with the NBA to say trading Zach LaVine gives me an opportunity to get a top 3 pick, and he's just telling us this or he's just saying this because Adam Silver does not want to condone or reward tanking. So maybe he's saying this to save face for the fact that there's already a deal. That's my conspiracy theory thinking. But I'm hoping that better be the case. It better be the case.
My thing is, I don't think so.
You think he's just a fucking idiot?
I think he's an idiot. So is Mark Eversley. I think he's a fucking idiot too. He's no better than Arturas.
I don't think so. I agree with you.
Where the hell was Mark Eversley at this press conference?
He doesn't show up to anything. I haven't heard this man say a word since the time he's been here.
Even when he is at the press conference,
he doesn't
sits
say
there
anything.
like a wall. He doesn't say shit, and they don't even ask questions to him either.
No,
because at the end of the day, what the fuck does Mark Eversley actually do?
I don't know.
I wish I knew.
I don't know.
Seriously, like I wonder.
I never thought in my life that I would say I want Gar Forman and John Paxson back, but I want Gar Forman and John Paxson
funny.
back.
Like, we said the same shit last week, but it holds true to this day. Like, we said this. We recorded like last week's episode at 7 a.m. before the trade deadline was over, because the trade deadline was over 2 p.m. that day,
yeah.
or 3 p.m. And here we are today. a week later saying the same shit. Like, I didn't have high hopes going into that trade deadline, but I thought if we were going to move on from Zach LaVine, or if we were going to move on or try to acquire other guys, it would have gone a way different path and route than it did.
And then what also baffles me is like, okay, so you traded Zach, cool, fine, whatever, you didn't get shit for him. Why the fuck are you holding on to Vooch?
Yeah.
Like what was the holdup on a Vucevic trade? The Warriors say that they were pretty much the last team looking into account for Vucevic. What was the holdup? Because you couldn't get a first round pick for him.
Right.
Like you really didn't get a first round pick for Zach.
Right.
You just got your pick back.
Yeah, and again, talking about it like we did last week, for Alex Caruso, Andre Drummond, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine, the Chicago Bulls acquired no new first-round picks.
Nothing.
All they did was receive their pick back.
So it's like, so what's the hang up on Vooch? Why are you so like,
we need it first.
We need it first. We need it first. If you couldn't get it for Zach and you didn't get it for Caruso, you didn't get it for DeMar, you didn't even get seconds for Andre Drummond, you just let him walk.
Yeah.
Why the fuck are you so hung up on Vucevic having to give you some type of grand return? Trade that motherfucker too. I feel so bad for Nikola Vucevic right now because he could have been on the Golden State Warriors.
Yep, he could have been on the Golden State Warriors.
He could have been on the Golden State Warriors with Jimmy Butler.
He would have had certainty.
Yes.
He would have had he would have had like security as well with his family. Like I think that's
and he would have been in a position to win.
Exactly. And I think that's the most fucked up part is like, throughout this whole time leading up until the trade deadline and the day of, I mean, the guy probably was like at home packing his fucking bags. Like he was ready to go.
I think he thought he was getting traded.
Yeah.
The moment he saw Zach LaVine get traded, he thought, because that's why he posted that picture like, oh, damn, I wonder if they actually take the name off and a number, or do they just do they actually take the whole plate off,
right,
or do they just take like the number and the name off? Like, because he was making a joke like, when is mine next, basically.
Yeah, right.
That's what he was saying. When am I next?
Yeah.
When am I next? When is it my turn? Because I'm trying to get the fuck up out of here too.
If you were to clean house, man, I don't understand why you didn't just do it at the deadline. Just get it over with.
And then on top of that,
and then you're walking into the offseason knowing the situation you're in already.
Yeah, and then on top of that, if you're looking for first round picks, your best assets to move for the first round picks were the young players.
Yes.
It was Kobe, it was Patrick, it was Josh Giddey. Those were your best. And then to come to find out that the fucking San Antonio Spurs called in about Josh Giddey, right? They called in about Josh Giddey and the Bulls denied the conversation. They said, no, we don't want to trade Josh Giddey. But you trade Zach LaVine for your own pick back. That tells me that San Antonio probably would have been willing to give you your pick back just for Josh Giddey.
Probably, right.
Because they wasn't really trying to trade for De'Aaron. De'Aaron was the second call. The first call was Josh Giddey because one, knowing San Antonio, he's cheaper and he's 6'8".
Yeah.
And
he's younger.
So if we're going to pay somebody upwards to probably like 20-something million, because Josh Giddey is not going to get 30-something million on the open market. So San Antonio would have been the perfect place for him to at least get some good money.
Yeah, right.
Some good money. But they were going to let him test the market and find out nobody wants you like that. So come take this offer. We got you because we want you. And it's going to be somewhere between 22 to 24 million a year. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Right? So San Antonio was willing to do that. Now the Bulls are in a situation where you have a guy on your roster. You have multiple guys on your roster that you have to figure out. You got to figure out if Kobe's going to get paid. You got to figure out if Ayo's going to get paid. You got to figure out if Josh Giddey is going to get paid right now. So are you telling me you move Zach LaVine to pay Josh Giddey? If you did, you're a complete fucking idiot.
I swear to God, if we extend him this offseason.
If we turn around and it turns around that Josh Giddey ends up getting a $30 million plus contract from us, and it's because of the fact that you move Zach LaVine off the roster, I promise you, that will be the stupidest fucking shit in the world that Arturas Karnisovas could ever do.
And I promise you, I will not be attending a Bulls game next year.
No,
and
I've already canceled my subscription to the CSGO because I will watch it through the app sometimes because I be at work a lot, so I'm not always home to watch the games. So once Zach LaVine got traded, I canceled that shit. And then they asked, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Because you traded Zach LaVine." Like, why am I watching this shit?
Right? Why am I gonna watch such a porous team that was down 79-32 against the Detroit Pistons last night? meaning February 10th
But
or 11th.
but they're being competitive. They're trying to play for a play-in.
Yeah, we're being competitive when Matas Buzelis was our top scorer with 12 points. Get the fuck out of here. Like, yeah, that's the experience we want for our young guys. We want our young guys to
just
be
get
able
their ass beat.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Because that's building a winning culture. How? The winning culture is being built when you have good veterans on the team with the young guys.
Yes,
the problem was
yes.
he was not willing to move off some of the young guys that you know ain't superstars. It's okay. It's okay to have a mix of good and young. But when you're trying to build a competitive team, you have to look at some of the young players that you have in conjunction with some of the veterans and say, okay, look, what veterans can we move and what young players can we move? The best moves would have been, okay, you have to trade Vucevic because at this point, he doesn't add value to our style of play. And he can't move on defense. He kills us in pick and roll. We need a more mobile center. If that's Jalen Smith, that's fine. But you need to find somebody else that can back him up. Or at least be the starter if you can find a better starter.
Daniel
cool.
Gafford
Whatever.
was
Daniel
available.
Gafford was available. Now, you compound that with saying, out of our young players, which are the ones we still have belief, still have a ceiling to get to, and which ones do we feel like have already hit their ceiling? Kobe White has been in the league almost 7 years now. He ain't going to be no more than what he is right now. He's an inconsistent, streaky shooter. He's an inconsistent, streaky scorer. That's all he is.
He ain't no facilitator.
He ain't no facilitator. He ain't no point guard. And he's somebody that you cannot count on game in and game out to give you the same production.
Yep.
Some games he can shoot the fucking air, he can shoot the fucking lights out the gym. And then other games it's almost like the motherfucker can't shoot in the gym.
Yep.
That he couldn't fucking hit a rock in the
He's
ocean.
got to stay out the kitchen.
Yeah. That he got to stay the fuck out the kitchen. And he has a lot of games like that. Patrick Williams has shown you that the most that he can be is maybe a 8 to 12 point per game player at max.
Which, it's funny because, you know, the guy didn't start in college, so he's really just doing the same thing.
He's doing exactly what he was doing his entire career.
Yeah.
Being a bench player.
Yeah.
And now that you
just being a role player.
And now that you moved him to the bench to be a role player, he's producing better.
He looks a lot better
in this
coming
role
off the bench.
So it's like
And you gave that guy a
5-year, $90 million contract. But we want to bitch and complain about Zach LaVine earning a max contract.
Right. Not a supermax, not none of this crazy
just
shit.
Earning
but
a max contract,
$40 million contract.
and we're bitching and moaning about that when we see what's going on with Phoenix with Bradley Beal. When we see what's going on with Dallas and how they feel about Luka Doncic and paying him $70 million a year, when we see that, New Orleans basically telling Brandon Ingram, we're not going to give you that money.
Yep.
So it's like you're complaining about that shit, but you got a guy on your roster that can't even score 8 points a game, and he's getting 5 year over $90 million. What the fuck are we talking about here?
It is so confusing and it's so concerning, and like as a Bulls fan, like, it feels like we're gonna go right back into the cycle that we were in like 2017 and 2019.
And that's the bigger problem. I hear all these Bulls fans talking about, well, we need to start over. We need to rebuild. And Zach LaVine wasn't winning us anywhere. He wasn't taking it. How can he? That's number one.
Yeah.
How could he? How could he take us anywhere with the roster that we had and with the rosters that he's had the entire time he's been a Chicago Bull? And I don't give a fuck what people talk about him and DeMar DeRozan. They were not a good pairing.
No.
And if Sacramento didn't have the team that it has around them as far as having Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, and Sabonis who can be a point center and having the shooting that they have between Malik Monk and Keegan Murray, then Sacramento would look really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. But they have things to offset the problems that a Zach LaVine and DeMar pairing has.
Right. That team is just a lot deeper than what the Chicago
Bulls
Bulls
had when we had DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
So that's why Sacramento will probably be able to look a lot better once they figure things out and get more chemistry.
Yep.
But as far as the Bulls are concerned, it was not a fucking anomaly or a mistake that the Bulls looked the way that they did with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan leading the way. They do not fucking work. They don't work. But at the end of the day, when Zach LaVine is in a situation that he is with the team and you're blaming him for all of this shit, and then you trade him, and once you trade him, the team directly plummets.
Like right away.
Right away. Now who are you saying don't contribute to winning? If anything, Zach LaVine is the only fucking reason we were winning any game.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's like, come on. All you had to do, Arturas Karnisovas, was move Vucevic, move Kobe and Patrick, or a mix of Kobe, Patrick, Josh Giddey, and a few more veterans that had good contracts like a Javon Carter and Torrey Craig, and you could have got a Brandon Ingram. And now you got Zach LaVine, Brandon Ingram, and maybe you keep a Kobe White in that mix. Maybe you end up keeping a Patrick Williams. Maybe you keep a Josh Giddey. One of those young players can still be around because it don't take all three of them to get deals done. But if you get a Zach LaVine, you get a Brandon Ingram, you move Vucevic for a Daniel Gafford or something like that, now you got your blocking center that can rotate and move and help in the pick and roll. And then you still got Patrick Williams or whoever else you have with Zach LaVine and Brandon Ingram, who would be a good pairing with each other. And you still have your facilitated point guards in Giddey or Lonzo Ball. Now you have a team that can compete, that has fluidity, that understands how to run in space, that you have two great shooters on the outside, a facilitating playmaking point guard in Giddey or Alonzo. And then you still got your bench there from Ayo, Talon, Jalen Smith, and all this other stuff. You have a team that can compete. Am I saying that that's going to be the team that wins the East? No. But now you still have a team that can compete, and you
could probably make the playoffs.
And you can make the playoffs.
Not just making
and you
the
can make the playoffs. And so, yeah, you may forfeit your 2025 pick because you got Brandon Ingram, but you got Brandon Ingram. You got just about as good as any player is going to come out. Like, I don't know if Cooper Flagg is going to be better than Brandon Ingram.
Exactly.
We don't know for sure. And I think that's the other part about this. That yeah, you could talk on that.
Yeah, because it's so fun. Like, we talked about it last week before this trade deadline, that when you are trading for a superstar, right, and we're talking about, okay, the draft capital and taking guys in the draft versus taking superstars back in trades, there is no certainty that a guy coming out of college is going to outperform superstars currently in the league. Like, there is no certainty that Cooper Flagg is going to be better than Brandon Ingram.
No.
Could he be? Maybe. We'll see. You know, he looks great in college. He looked like a great ball player, but that was the same story for all of these guys coming out of college.
So did Brandon Ingram look good in college?
Exactly. Like, Anthony Davis, like you got so many of these guys that look great in college. I mean, freaking Trey Jones looked like a superstar in college.
Anthony Bennett looked like the superstar in college.
Well, and look number one pick, right?
And look what he turned into.
Exactly. So, like, that's what we mean. Like, when we say the NBA draft is such a lottery, like it's more of a lottery than freaking like playing like the Illinois lottery or anything like that.
It's a complete crapshoot.
Yeah, because you're paying these kids millions of dollars, hoping it's hope. Compared to trading for a guy making tens of millions of dollars
that you know
the production he's going to bring you. And I'm so glad we both agree on this point, because on so many different points we're so separated, whether it's football or basketball, whatever. Yeah. But like on this point specifically, on the Chicago Bulls, the vision is clear. Like on two guys that on very different occasions, on different topics, have way different views as far as like where the Chicago Bears should go, where all these other aspects, like how, you know, what Kansas City should do, you know, maybe what these other NBA teams should do. If it's clear that we could agree upon what the Chicago Bulls should be doing, I think it's very fucking clear that a lot of other people agree as well. And for the guys in the comment section that are being like, oh, it doesn't make sense to trade for Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, you're better off getting draft capital, or, oh, the reason why AK didn't trade Vooch is because you only would have gotten second-round picks back. You guys need to shut the fuck up, because you absolutely make no sense. Zero sense. Why? Why does it matter if you get one first-round pick versus 2 to 3 second-round picks? We've seen the amount of second-round picks that come out and be better than a lot of these first-round picks. It really does not matter where you are in the draft. If you could scout well,
you can find anybody.
You can find anybody.
Nikola Jokic was found during a commercial.
Yeah.
Denver drafted him during a Taco Bell commercial.
Yep.
That's the facts about Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
He wasn't even drafted while the telecast of the NBA draft was live and going on. Mm-hmm. He was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. When they cut back, they just told, with the something pick, Denver selected Nikola Jokic. Now let's move on to this next draft pick. He wasn't even thought about. And he's, what is he, a 3-time MVP?
Yeah.
1-time champion.
I mean, dude, just to spotlight like a couple of second-round picks since 2014. again, you got Nikola Jokic that went 41st. You got Montrezl Harrell, he went 32nd. When he was, still playing, he was solid.
Yeah.
Malcolm Brogdon went 36th. Jalen Brunson went 33rd. We see who Jalen Brunson is today. Like, it is so crazy to see that we refuse to drop a few spots from 32 or 30 to like 35 just because it's a second round pick. Like, get the fuck out of here. It is 4 picks. It is 4 different guys that are going.
And because you have fucked up so many trades, now you want to be on your high horse about
Ayo
Vucevic.
Dosunmu went in the second
I know.
round.
And you want to be on your high horse about Vucevic because you fucked up so many trades. So now, because you fucked up so many trades, you can't fuck up the last one. No, just keep fucking it up.
That's what I'm saying.
Keep it going. You already fucked up all these trades.
Your job is already in jeopardy.
Yeah.
You are better off just clearing the book
Yeah,
and seeing
man.
if you could build the team from scratch.
Oh, my God.
If you're really trying to clean house, that is the route you should have gone instead of keeping Vucevic this year. But the realistic route that we should have taken is trying to trade for one of these all-stars like a Brandon Ingram.
But I'm going to leave on this note. I'm going to say this because we're going to have this conversation at some point. Hopefully we can get more people involved with this one. But the state of Chicago sports is pitiful.
Yes.
Front offices and all of our Chicago sports groups are fucking terrible. And I mean, the Chicago Bears are looking like they might be the one to finally turn things around and become something that's actually good. So the judgment is still out on them, but as of now, they fucking suck too. But this is what I'm going to say. The Chicago Bulls are benefiting from the fact that they had the greatest player ever to lace them up. The fact that Michael Jordan played for the Chicago Bulls is the only reason that the Chicago Bulls can be this bad of a fucking franchise and still manage to sell tickets, sell jerseys, and get fans in the stand and have a global presence. Michael Jordan by himself is single-handedly maintaining the Bulls franchise, and he hasn't even played for the Chicago Bulls since 1998. It is almost 3 decades almost since Michael Jordan has put on a Bulls jersey, and they are still reaping the benefits from how great of a player he was. But because of that, Jerry Reinsdorf and the Reinsdorf family knows that because the money is rolling in, they do not have to try hard to do anything for the Chicago Bulls to make them a competitive team, which is why I ultimately think Zach LaVine was dealt and traded, because we don't need him to make the money. We don't need him for this team to get people for people to be in the stands. And the fact that the media was able to contrive a narrative that allowed the fans to turn their back on Zach, what's the point of paying him still?
Yep.
What's the point of keeping him around? They'll stay around because we are the Chicago Bulls. We will get people to watch us because we are the Chicago Bulls. We are the franchise that had Michael Jeffrey motherfucking Jordan. So because of that, we will always make money. And that will always buy us time to bring in a star or two every now and then, put up a fake front like we're trying to win, hope that team does good, and when they don't do good, break it down and start all over again. My question for Bulls fans is, how much longer are we going to allow this cycle, this depressive cycle of the Bulls fucking us over with getting guys in that potentially have the ability to win championships, putting them in bad situations, building horrible teams around them, and then telling us it's their fault why they don't win, and then trading them for absolutely nothing? We didn't get shit for Derrick Rose, we didn't get shit for Jeremy Butler, and we didn't get shit for Zach LaVine. And we are 0 for 3. Derrick Rose, we didn't win the championship with, and we let him go when we should have stuck with him because he still could have been a great point guard for us. Even in his later years of not being the most athletic, you still could have built a team around Derrick Rose and figured out another star to pair with him over time. But you gave up on him and traded him to the Knicks. John Paxson went upstairs to his boss and literally said, I don't know how to do this anymore, and I don't know how to build around Jimmy Butler. And now we have Arturas Karnisovas, who put together the worst absolute team around Zach LaVine, and then allowed fans and the media, the people, to turn around and blame Zach LaVine for why things didn't work. This is 0 for 3. Utterly bullshit. And I just think as a Bulls fan, if you seriously want to see a championship, we have to at some point say, we're no longer supporting you, we're no longer watching you, and we're no longer coming to these fucking games. We have to.
Yep.
The attendance has to drop. The jersey sales has to drop. And we have to hold them to the feet in the fire of saying, give us a winning team or this shit is fucking over with and we're done.
Because the reality is, just to end it off, the reality is this season alone, the top 10 attendance in games, the Bulls
Bulls game.
The Bulls have 5 of them.
I think it was like
or 7 of them.
7 of them. for the NBA.
Like the entire NBA.
For the entire NBA.
That like Boston ain't got as many as the Bulls. Like OKC don't got as many as the Bulls.
Golden State don't have as many as the
The
Bulls.
Lakers don't have as many as the Bulls.
The Bulls show up and people come to watch.
Yep. Because that's how hard the city of Chicago rides for their basketball.
And that's just how much of a global brand the Chicago Bulls are.
Yes.
People want to come. People are fans of the Chicago Bulls all around the world. Just fuck this country around the world,
dude. Like
around the world.
Like, I went on vacation to the Dominican. Guess what? I was wearing a Bulls hat. All the workers were coming up to me saying like, "Oh man, I love the Bulls because of Jordan."
And we have the highest, like you said, those games are the highest attended games in all of the NBA for this season thus far. Just because the Bulls, whether it was a home game or an away game where the Bulls were showing up to somebody else's court, because the Bulls were playing, people showed up to watch the Bulls play. That's the impact of this brand.
Anyways.
Man, fuck, again.
Yeah, again.
Fuck you, our tourists.
I agree. But anyways, episode 20, we made it this far. I'm losing hair over the stress over these fucking Chicago sports teams and having to argue with this guy a lot about the Chicago Bears.
Oh man.
But you know, it's been
get ready to lose some more hair.
Yeah, I'll probably lose some more after
next episode. We're really gonna dive into these Bears.
But it's been a hell of a ride. We're loving the support we're getting on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. We're almost at 100 subscribers on YouTube now. I think we're at like 87, 88. Keep subscribing. Please like the videos. Keep commenting.
Run them numbers up.
If you're seeing this on Instagram or TikTok, please just go ahead. Take 5 to 10 seconds. That's all it takes to go ahead and follow us. Go ahead and like the video. Go ahead, find our YouTube and subscribe, man. It takes like 5 to 10 seconds, man. And we appreciate it so much so we could keep pumping out this content for you guys because we love the engagement. We love the engagement. Coach Malcolm has had a hell of a time debating you guys in the comment section. I've kind of chimed in more on TikTok. So it's been nice talking to you guys, and we appreciate all the support we have been getting so far.
And as always, you know how we end the show, baby. It's C Red and Bear Down, baby.
Yes, sir.